balls, 2 strikes. Spores kicks and fires. He struck him out looking. It's over. It's over. The Rangers have won the World Series. Ranger fans, you're not dreaming. The Rangers are the World Series champions. After 52 years in Texas, 63 years of the franchise. The wait is over. And the celebration has begun.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you just heard was one of the most iconic calls of all time. Welcome into the 143, where we are living large here in College Station, Texas.
It has been a very, very good last week, let me tell you. I mean, there's really nothing that could knock us off what we're feeling right now. We've been high for the last week, and I mean, there's really nothing that's bringing us down. You've
probably been wondering why we haven't mentioned anything about this, and you know what? It worked. Whatever we were doing worked. And ladies and gentlemen, the Texas Rangers won their first ever World Series 2023 World Champions, and we are here to talk about it.
Yeah, we're better than everyone. We kind of had to stop talking about the Rangers for a little bit because,
there was a correlation.
So we talked about them 2 or 3 times during the season, and coincidentally, right after we would release that episode, they would go
literally the day
into a losing streak.
Pretty long.
And I remember the last time it happened was the really bad losing streak whenever we lost 8 in a row.
Yep.
And so that's when we were like, all right, we're just going to have to hold off until the season's over.
And it's been tough, recording these episodes, just thinking about postseason baseball. Obviously, we've been locked into the NFL, but we've been watching postseason baseball. But I mean, we're more pumped than anyone. We feel like we feel great. That I don't know. There's not. I'm sure all these Rangers fans listening to us right now feel the same way. I don't know if it gets any better than this. So
it really doesn't.
Yeah, this is historic. And Nick and I got to go to the parade in Arlington on Friday and hear everyone talk. Hear Corey Seager just flame the Astros while he was up there.
Yeah, we got to hear everybody speak, and they all had some good words.
And
always bringing it back to the team.
Since we haven't talked about it in a while, we are going to say everything that we want to say in this episode.
Absolutely.
This is our Texas Rangers World Champions episode, and welcome in to the 143, episode 95. The Texas Rangers won. Let's just start with the stats of the week.
Yeah, okay? There's about 13,000 we had.
There's actually 3 stats I want to point out, Nick, and they're actually all very similar. The Texas Rangers in the postseason broke the single postseason road win record and streak record. They won 11 of the 11 postseason road games they played. So they were 11-0 on the road. They were 11-0 when they scored first in the postseason. And Nick and I were 11-0 when watching the games together, ladies and gentlemen. Nick and I were undefeated.
To put that into perspective, I believe we only won 2 home games, and we watched both of those. But it was weird because we saw 9 of the 11 road wins, and then it just so happened that we were together for the 2 home wins that we had, but we were apart for all of the losses. But when me and Joseph were together, we were undefeated.
Nick and I did not see a single postseason loss together. So we feel like the Rangers should ship us our rings at some point soon.
I mean, when we went to the parade, I was just waiting for them to, let me hold the trophy.
Yeah, I just feel like we deserve that picture, but hey, it's fine. I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's coming. Anyways, that's your stats of the week, and obviously the biggest one is the one about me and Nick, but we'll roll into player of the week.
All right, so I guess you kind of got to go 2 players of the week here. We're doing 3 stats, so we're just going to do 2 players.
We can do whatever we want. This is our show.
All right, you got your World Series MVP, Corey Drew Seager.
Corey!
The best hitter in baseball. I don't really think there's a question about about that. I mean,
I wasn't
it's
questioning it.
Corey, and then there's no one else. He won his second World Series MVP, and he has won one World Series MVP in each league. So he won one in the National League in 2020 with the Dodgers, and now he won his second in the American League with us, the Texas Rangers. And he was an absolute monster in the World Series. I mean, let's just throw out his stats. In the World Series, he batted .286, walked 3 times, drove in 6, had three round trippers, 3 bombs,
3
absolutely
no-doubters.
incredible. And then he had a double. And that all adds up to 6 hits, so he was absolutely impeccable from the plate. I mean,
He was dangerous.
coming up in one huge spot after the other. And now let's get into El Bombi, all right? The
El
big thing
Bombi.
for him was that he broke the postseason RBI record with 22, right? And the
He didn't even
person
play the whole postseason.
that held it before him was David Freese, unfortunately. So there's a lot of bad blood there. But it was nice to see Adolis Garcia.
David Freese is the guy that walked it off on the Texas Rangers in 2011.
Yes,
And ended
that
our
Game
World
6
Series hopes.
thing.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that was nice to see him surpass that, holding 22 RBIs. He batted .323 in the entirety of the postseason, posting 20 hits and 8 home runs. And I appreciated all 8 of them.
We're gonna get into it now. I mean, this is there were 4 series that we played: Tampa, Baltimore, Houston, and Arizona, in that order. And we're just gonna briefly say that Tampa and Baltimore had the 2 best records in the AL, and we swept them. We took care of them pretty quickly. There's not much to say about those 2 series other than we dominated. So we're going to jump in with the postseason coverage in Houston. So, Nick, why don't you talk
Absolutely.
about the Houston ALCS, the Lone Star Series, the Houston Astros.
I mean, you
versus the
absolutely
Texas
have
Rangers.
to mention those first 2 series. Obviously, not going to talk about it, but just because you can't really say that we had an easy road to get there because we faced the 3 best teams to get to the World
We did.
Series. We didn't have to play. We didn't get to play the Blue Jays or the Twins or whatever to get to where we were. No, we had to fight for every
Nick,
single.
who played the Twins? Who are you?
Oh, I don't.
The Astros.
I believe, it was Houston. Yeah, that's who it was.
that's right.
They got an easy round 1 bye and then got to play Minnesota in the ALDS, who everyone knew didn't deserve to be there. They won the trashy AL Central Division. Okay,
Not very
no one
good.
cares. But anyways, it was an absolute just street fight in the ALCS, and everything that had happened during the regular season was just leading up to
Obviously-
whenever the Texas Rangers would face off against the Houston Astros in the playoffs.
Bad blood between both teams. This has become
Very much so.
now. It's a real rivalry.
I'd
It
say
had
it's a
been-
big rivalry now.
It wasn't really much of a rivalry before the season because when the Rangers were good, the Astros weren't very good. And then when the Astros were good,
Vice
the Rangers
versa.
weren't very good. And so now both teams are decent. We finished with the exact same record, although the Astros took the division in the last day because we lost to the Seattle and they beat the Arizona JV squad that they played. So they won the division in the head-to-head tiebreaker. But same record, so they got home field in the ALCS. And yeah, so everything that had kind of been boiling up, players did not like each other very much, which is exactly what
Rightly
you want to
so.
see.
Rightly
It's exactly
so.
what you
I
wanna
mean,
see.
they're a bunch of chumps down there in Houston. And also the other thing is we've been hearing some prior to that series, we had heard some fans, some Astros fans, obviously. 'Cause,
We hear a lot of them.
They're petty, right? They're gonna
They are
complain, right? When they lose, it's never their fault.
It's not all Astros fans, but a lot of the ones we know.
I would say 90%. A solid 90%. But they were complaining all of a sudden about how the ALCS format is, saying that it's not fair, that you get 2 games at home, 3 straight road games, and then 2 games back home. Which, by the way, baseball has been around for over 100
around for a
years, I think.
for a while.
Over 100 years, something like that. And it's been like that forever. Since the dawn of time.
Yeah, can't really complain about the format. Obviously, the reason we were getting complaints was we won the first 2 games in Houston.
But
We went
it
up
gives you
2-0.
the ideal scenario if you're the higher seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Phillies had the same thing that the Astros did.
They did.
Right? You get to go home ahead in the series, up 3-2. You get 2 chances to clinch the series at your place. And that's why the format is set up that way.
The reason the format is 2-3-2 and not 2-2, 1-1-1 like it is in the NBA. Baseball is an everyday sport. They try to get the games played in back-to-back days.
so you can play back-to-back days.
but you get 6 and 7 at home. That's the home field advantage. And so that's what Houston got.
and those are like the 2 games that you want at home because those are some crucial games, right?
Right. So basically, we're gonna just a brief synopsis of the first 4 games. We took the first 2 in Houston. They were great pitching series. Great pitching games. Jordan Montgomery pitched a shutout. Nathan Eovaldi came in. Got out of
Absolutely
a.
shoved. He was just disgusting. The
He's
entire
better.
postseason.
He's better with runners in scoring position. Runners in scoring position.
I mean, obviously, you don't want to get
what he
into
showed.
that game, but I mean, you just have to mention it was. We were ahead in that game by a couple runs. Bottom of the 5th rolls around. He loads up the bases, no outs, and so obviously, when you're watching the game, you're like, okay, maybe we can get out with just 1 run.
Houston's
or
going
whatever.
crazy. I mean,
And
the
then
stadium's loving it.
He just absolutely deals and goes strikeout, ground out. Gets out of the 5th. No runs scored in a bases loaded, no out situation. And that's when, I mean, that lit a fire under
Yeah.
the boys for the rest of the season or the series.
You would think. And then they went to they came to Arlington where they won games 3 and 4 pretty convincingly. They were
Yeah.
not close and they kind of shut us out. Game 4, Josh Jung had 2 2-run home runs, but we were down by so much that it didn't matter.
It was unfortunate because that's one of those games that's a performance that'll get forgotten just because
Not by us.
you
us.
know, we didn't end up winning that game. But obviously, Game 5 was where
Game 5 is where it started to get intense.
it really started getting chippy. All right. The
a tough game for us.
Astros struck first, right? Well, the other thing, too, was it was another pitcher's duel.
You're back
right?
to the Aces,
You're back to, it was Verlander versus Montgomery.
the Game 1 rematch.
And so up to that point, the narrative for the Rangers was when Eovaldi and Montgomery are pitching, you have to take advantage of those games
Because we did
and
not
come
have
out
any
with
other
wins.
starting
Because
pitchers.
after those 2, you don't know what kind of pitching performance you're going to get.
Which is what happened in 3 and 4. That's why we
Yeah.
knew we needed to win games 5 and 6.
But the Astros struck first in that one, and then Alex Bregman hits a bomb, but then we rally back. Nathaniel Lowe gets himself going, and he solos in that game. It goes back to 1-1. But eventually, the Rangers would find themselves ahead in that game due to an Adolis Garcia bomb. And then, later in that game,
Well, Adolis hit the bomb, made it 4-2.
Yeah.
3-run bomb. And he kind of did what he does, where he stares at the home run, throws the bat. I mean, it was electric. It was in Arlington.
comes in, stomps on the plate a
It's
little bit.
postseason baseball. It's his plate. He can stomp on it. I mean, it's not like he stomped on Houston's plate. It's our plate. He stomped on the plate. He let it be known that he absolutely smashed the ball, which he did. And Houston didn't like that very much. Now, Verlander didn't have a problem with it, but the rest of the team did not like
Well, see,
it.
Martin Maldonado didn't
The
like
catcher.
it, but it's actually understandable because he hit a $165 during the season, so he's not used to seeing home runs.
Yeah.
So when he saw Adolis react like that, that was a whole new experience for him because, I mean, he batted a $165, so he didn't hit very many balls.
It's still 4-2 in the 8th inning. Adolis gets back up, and Brian Abreu, the pitcher, throws the ball square at his back first pitch.
So Adolis Garcia gets hit with 98 in the middle of the spine, and
Which, for those of you that don't know baseball, if you're going to peg somebody, you throw it at the middle of their back.
so
On purpose.
obviously 98, that hurts a lot.
Yep.
And so Adolis took offense to that, rightly so.
Most
because
players would.
It's not like he went up and in on
It's
him.
also-
He hit him square in the back.
It's a rivalry. Players don't like each other. It's an intense game. It's postseason baseball. So obviously, I mean, all signs point to that being intentional. Now, a lot of Astros fans have been saying that was not intentional. But
saying, why would you put a runner on when you're down 2? Why would you?
We don't know.
Why would you?
We're not the coaches of the Astros, but we just know that when you throw at somebody's back in the first pitch,
and also,
first pitch,
yes,
it's
absolutely,
intentional.
First pitch, and it's conveniently the guy that 2 innings before pimped one off of your ace.
It's not an accident. It's not a coincidence.
It's not an accident when it happens the first pitch. Also, there's 2 things to consider. One, are we actually going to trust the moral integrity of a team that cheated?
No, even though they do get hurt when you bring that up.
Capital N, capital O. No. Second thing to consider is Brian Abreu, who is the pitcher, right?
Yep.
He threw his 4-seam fastball. I believe it was about 230 times in the regular season.
Okay.
And do you know how many batters he hit?
How many?
0. Not a single one.
He has control over his fastball.
He threw it less than 40 times in the postseason and hit 2 batters. 2. Dose. Okay?
Both
he
for
would
us?
hit Mitch Garver
Later
in the series. Okay? That's not coincidence.
It's not coincidence. It happened. Garcia didn't like it. Okay? So, bench clearing brawl, which happens. And long story short, top of the 9th inning, they get 2 guys on. Leclerc gives up a 3-run home run to their face of their franchise, Jose Altuve, who hits a 3-run bomb, 5-4. We couldn't end up scoring any more runs in the bottom of the 9th. They win that game. So, that is an absolutely deflating game.
Also, this was the point in the postseason when Marcus Semien was absolutely ice cold. He was not worth anything. Corey Seager was not
he was not doing
great. He was good for a hit every now and then, but he was not to his clutch
Adolis
self
hadn't
that
really
you would see later.
caught fire yet either. He had hit that home run, but he wasn't really like someone they were scared of yet.
Safe to say, even though we lost this game, that got everyone amped up on our side.
But as the fans, you had another day before Game 6, and me and Nick, we can tell you, Rangers fans were down in the dumps.
Absolutely.
That was a game we needed to win because Montgomery was pitching, and you had Nathan Eovaldi, but you don't know, because now you got to take it to Game 7, but Max Scherzer's been hurt. He hasn't been very good, so you don't know what's going to happen in Game 7. So Game 6 comes around, and we're going back to Houston, which is also another reason why it was kind of sad that we couldn't win. You would think
all these Astros fans complaining about the way the format is, but it's like, you're getting the ideal scenario.
The away team has won every game for 5 games. Mm-hmm. And so now we're hoping we can keep that up, that away team thing going. And Game 6 rolls around, and obviously the crowd in Houston does not like Adolis Garcia.
No, they don't.
They boo him every time he gets up. He goes 4 strikeouts. And it was a close-ish game. I think what was it, 5-2?
Yeah.
He came up in
the top of the 9th.
Top of the 9th. So they still have a fighting chance. And obviously
it was a catcher's day for sure for us. Mitch Garver and Jonah Heim came in huge with some clutch swings.
Yep.
Both guys had a home run, and then Mitch Garver has an RBI in the top of the 8th, and that makes it ultimately 5-2.
And then so it's 5-2. 3-run deficit in Houston. The fans know that Jose Altuve closed that deficit, or 2-run deficit the other night with a 3-run home run. You still have life with a 3-run deficit in the 9th. So Adolis Garcia gets up, bases loaded, 4 strikeouts in a row. Crowd's booing him. They need an out.
Yep, absolutely.
And he absolutely smacks one into the left field stands.
It was beautiful.
It was a no-doubter. He knew it was over. Everyone knew it was over.
Here's the other thing. When it's 3:15 to left field, it's pretty easy to poke one out over there, especially when you got a guy as strong as Adolis. He absolutely takes advantage of that.
I would say that's when Adolis really caught real fire.
He caught fire,
So
absolutely.
we won that game, obviously, with that grand slam, which was electric. Sent it into 7. So, Nick, why don't you take us through Game 7?
All right, so we would ultimately win that game 9-2, and so Game 7 would roll around, and other than Nathan Eovaldi, regarding pitching, it was an all-hands-on-deck. Jordan Montgomery had pitched a few days before that. Obviously, he was not going to start, but it's like, hey, if we need 1, 2 innings, we'll be prepared to, get up there and throw some. And so this was Max Scherzer's second start of the postseason.
Yeah, since being injured.
Obviously, you're pretty worried because he was absolutely horrendous. Game 3, I mean, we really needed him, and he was not there. But in spite of that, he did a great job at containing the Houston offense. It's unrealistic to expect to go shutout every time.
They're good offense.
But he held them to a minimum runs-wise, and then our offense just clicked on every single aspect.
Something we hadn't seen in a while.
Every single person on that team was hitting, and it started with our shortstop,
El Capitan.
Corey Seager. I mean, I don't understand why pitchers continue to make the mistake on pitching inner third of the plate to this guy, but
they continued to do it.
He gets a pitch up and in that's right in his wheelhouse, and on contact, that ball is in the seats. Merry Christmas to whatever kid or whoever caught that baseball. He's taking home a souvenir, and the Houston Astros pitching just absolutely unraveled. And the thing was they were throwing their guy, Christian Javier.
He'd been doing really good in the postseason.
He had given up two runs up to this point in the postseason. He gives up 4 in not even the entire first. He pitches a third, gives up 4 runs, and then they yank him. And he was done for the day. Yep,
and it was 4-2, and after the first inning, it was 4-1. Game 7 was never close. And
I mean, right out of the gate with how hot our offense was, you knew we had it.
They played with a vengeance.
It was just a matter of what the final score would be.
You could tell which team really came to play that game, and it was the Texas Rangers. And Adolis Garcia ended up hitting 2 home runs that game, and also his first at bat drove in a run. And so basically, to make a long story short, the Rangers won 11-4. The Houston fans were leaving in the 6th inning after Nathaniel Lowe's 2-run home run. And we took the ALCS in 7. We won the Lone Star Series. And Adolis Garcia became the owner of the Houston Astros.
I mean, absolutely.
So they hate him now down there in Houston, and obviously their fans are actually, when we won the World Series, I've still been hearing from Houston fans. I don't understand. I don't think they understand how that works, but we can talk about that here in a sec. But we won the Lone Star Series, hard-fought series, long series, ups and downs. The away team won every game, and but the Rangers ended up coming up on top.
I mean, it
was pretty convincing, 6 and 7.
Absolutely, because they had no chance those last 2 games. But hey, both teams punched a ticket. We punched our ticket to the World Series. The Astros got to punch their ticket to Cancun a couple weeks early, so good for them. And Martin Maldonado, after Game 5, they're interviewing him like he did anything in his life.
Exactly.
And he says that the worst thing Adolis did was wake up the Houston Astros. Well, I believe right about now we put him to bed.
I would say the worst thing they did was wake up Adolis Garcia.
I mean, they deeply regretted that.
But Arizona Diamondbacks end up winning against Philadelphia. We're not here to talk about them, but their series win was pretty good as well in the NLCS. But
no idea how they managed to get out of the NL.
You got Arizona versus Texas in the World Series.
No one was really expecting Arizona to have a chance at beating us. With how hot our offense was, we rely so deeply on the long ball, and the Arizona Diamondbacks just do not.
They're a small ball team, and that's not going to win you a championship. But Game 1, it was looking like they knew what they were doing, because we had our guy, Nathan Eovaldi, up there on the mound, and they put 5 runs on him. And
that's just deflating to see, because he had been efficient.
Their game was different than Houston. We weren't used to it. They like to do infield singles, bunt them around, steal bases. They're more of a very keep it in the infield kind of team, where Houston's more of like everybody needs to hit it out, kind of like we are. Yeah. And they put up 5 runs on him, and we only could answer with 3.
We answered with 3 against Zach Gallen. We struck first.
We did
early in the game, 2 runs in the first, and then we got a run in the second. But
Our bullpen came in and dealt
Yes,
very well.
absolutely. Nathan Eovaldi got himself into some trouble.
John Gray.
But John Gray, unsung hero, came in, pitched 3 shutout innings, and then he would later in the series pitch 3 more shutout innings, which were crucial. But, it was all odds were looking like the Diamondbacks were going to take Game 1 in Texas. But
Now, the bottom of the ninth rolls around.
the bottom of the ninth rolls around, and in an ideal scenario, we would get Corey Seager up to the plate with a chance to do exactly
We had
what he did.
9, 1, and 2 up. So we had Leody Taveras, Marcus Semien, and Corey Seager as the 3 guys that were guaranteed to get an at-bat. Mm-hmm. And
Leody milks a huge walk in spite of them trying to, call pitches off the plate.
the World
bat a
Series
ball off the
umping
plate.
was some of the worst umping I have ever seen in baseball. And most
It was
calls went
pretty
against
pathetic.
us.
It
And
was
I'm not...
pretty pathetic.
We're not going to go off on a rant there, but there was if
Yeah.
you look at the stats and the numbers, most calls went against us, and it was umps that were pretty good in the season who were terrible in the World Series. But Leody gets on base. Marcus Semien did what he had been doing for a little
Thus
bit.
far,
And
up to that point at least.
he got out. And then Corey gets up. Corey Seager, the guy you want to have up in that situation.
This is what we paid for him to be, is in these moments, this is the guy that you want up, the best hitter in baseball. And first pitch he sees, parks it in the seats. 441. Absolutely no doubt about it.
Any Rangers fan will remember that hit till the day they die.
The pitcher Seawald did not even bother to turn around, which, by the way, he had been 8 for 8 on saves. He had been absolutely perfect. Not only 8
Welcome
for
to
8,
Texas.
but he had not given up a single run through the entire postseason. And then his first game against us, we take him yard. And Corey Seager ties the game. 5-5 in the bottom of the ninth.
And then we get to the 11th, and the guy, Adolis Garcia, he hits a
He had
walk-off
been
home run.
the man of the hour.
And honestly, it was probably one of the most storybook games ever in the World Series. Definitely one of the most historic game ones ever in World Series history. For the Rangers to come back like that when it looked like all hope was lost, when it looked like the Diamondbacks knew what they were doing. And it was just an absolutely crazy win to have at home. But that game was the most memorable of the World Series, I think, for all Rangers fans.
Yes.
Just because of how we came back in the ninth with Corey Seager's home run and then Adolis Garcia walking it off in the 11th. We don't have time to go through the rest of the games.
Jose
in depth,
Leclerc
but that was the one.
came up huge as well. There at the end, he had 2 scoreless innings, which were absolutely crucial for keeping the Rangers in the game and keeping the game tied there at the end. Game 2 rolls around. There's not much to say there. We were absolutely horrible. We were ice cold on offense.
Lost 9-1. Nick and I did not watch that game together.
Pitching
like
was
we
not
said.
there.
Pitching wasn't there.
I believe they got 9 runs off of us. But
We go to Arizona. We're way better on
Whatever.
the road, and we won. We won all 3 games there. There's not much to say about the games in Arizona other than Game 5. We were getting no hit through 6. I mean, games 1 and 2, we won pretty.
yeah, the first 2 games in Arizona.
But Game 5 rolled around. We were getting no hit through 6 innings, but they also hadn't scored a run through 6 innings. And then 7th inning rolls around. Corey gets a little dink single, and everybody just decides they're going to hit.
And then everything shatters for the Diamondbacks. We just start piling it
scoring.
on. But a big thing that we're failing to mention is Game 3. Adolis Garcia would go down
Oh, yes.
with an oblique strain.
That was horrifying to Rangers fans.
I mean, it was very, very depressing just because he had been so huge up to that
He was
point
the
in the
ALCS
World
MVP.
Series. ALCS MVP, and he was just getting hotter and hotter as the games
Yep.
went on. And then shout out Travis Jankowski, coming up huge. He would get the nod.
El Blondie, as we like to call him.
Blondie, Steve the Pirate, Janko. He goes by many names, but he was absolutely perfect. Just about as perfect as you can ask
In
for.
4 and 5, he had a couple of hits. In 4, he had a couple hits for a couple RBIs.
I mean, yeah, Game 4, he has 2 RBIs, 2 hits, and he was batting in the 9 hole, and he's an unsung hero that
Yes.
he's going to get forgotten about, but it just stinks because he batted a little over 300 the first couple months of the season. He was in the starting lineup and then didn't see really any playing time for the last couple months of the season. And then he finally gets the nod to come back in the lineup, and he just picks up right where he left off. Obviously, no one can replace Adolis Garcia, but he did his job.
He did his job, and he got the job done for us. Top of the 9th inning, we scored a couple runs on a Jonah Heim triple and made it 4-0 in Game 5, 3-0 in Game 5. And then Marcus Semien gets up. He's been cold most of the series. He did have a bomb in Game 4.
And a triple.
And he gets up and just ends it with a absolute bomb. A 2-run shot to make it 5-0. We go into the bottom of the 9th.
Oh, you know who that was off of? That was off of Seawald.
Seawald
Side
loves
note.
giving up 2-run home runs.
Yeah.
But to us. Anyways, so 9th inning rolls around. Josh Sborz gets the call. 3 outs. The last one, a strikeout of Ketel Marte. And that's it. Season in the books.
I mean,
Rangers world champions.
Josh Sborz, he's another guy. He was absolutely lights out in the postseason. It was interesting to see him get to pitch of the 9th in Game 5, just because up to that point, he had been primarily what we had been doing when we had all 3 arms available is we would go Sborz in the 7th, Chapman in the 8th, and then Leclerc in the 9th. But on that Game 5, kind of switched it around a little bit.
Yep.
We go Chapman in the 7th, and then Sborz pitches the 8th and the 9th.
So the Rangers winning the World Series was definitely up there with one of the greatest moments of our lives for sure.
Mm-hmm. Just to, you know what? Let me just give you some Josh
Go ahead.
Sborz stats. Just because he was too great to not.
He was another unsung hero
out.
that probably will not be mentioned as much. But
Yeah, absolutely. Posted a .75 ERA across 10 games pitched, which totals to 12 innings, 13 strikeouts in, .67 walks and hits over innings pitched. So he was lights out as a closer. Or as a relief pitcher. Him and Leclerc came up huge for us in some spots, and I'm just excited. We need to keep this guy.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Keep him around. Our biggest issue has been pitching, more importantly, relief pitching. But he is a guy that you can continue to ride for this next season.
Our entire team came together. They never took credit for themselves. They always gave the team credit, and obviously the biggest man who gets all the credit, 2 guys actually, who kind of put this together. Chris Young, the GM, Bruce Bochy, the manager. Bruce comes in first year, gets a World Series win. All the guys talk about his calm demeanor, how he got them through all the tough times, the ups and the downs of the season. Chris Young, the guy who put this entire team together and got Bochy for us, the artist behind the brush.
I mean, they're truly the two of the greatest individuals that you will ever see / meet in your life. Bruce Bochy, obviously, we were super excited at the beginning of the season when we got this guy. He had won. He had won some rings before. He was not new to postseason baseball. He had helped the Giants win their first ring after having like a 50 or something like that year drought.
Right.
And then he helped us win our first ring ever in, what was it, over 50 years of being a team.
52 years of being in Texas.
And so, super excited for Bruce. Hope he stays around forever. And then, yeah, just like Joseph said, Chris Young, I mean, he truly put together an all-star squad. And he kind of took some guys that, weren't worth a whole lot when they got traded to the Rangers and turned them into some beasts.
Yeah, I think the thing is, this was our first year with this team, first year with Bruce. So,
Yeah.
Rangers aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And, I think that they'll be contending again next year and hopefully for a few more years to come after that. And so this is awesome as Rangers fans to finally see our team being dominant again and finally getting that World Series win. Truly one of the most incredible things ever, most memorable things that we'll ever watch. And so now it's time to address.
Let's just get into the after season, off season. Sorry. I think there's one more man that you have to mention, just because we kind of forgot about him.
Okay.
Or we didn't forget about him, but
Okay.
his performance was absolutely electric. It was Evan Carter.
Evan Carter, the Rook.
He gets called up.
True rookie.
So Adolis Garcia would go down with an injury towards the end of the season, a couple weeks left of the regular season. And so Evan Carter, who was the number 8 prospect at the time, drafted him at 19, right out of high school. He had been raking in the minors. We say, hey, we'll give this kid a chance. You know, he'll give us a couple good weeks of baseball, and then it's back to business. Well, he wows everybody in our organization and on the team. And so when Adolis comes back, he earns a permanent spot on the roster in left field.
He did great.
And he was electric in every single game that he played
Great
in.
with the bat, great in the field.
I mean, something else that's interesting is he actually reached base safely in all 17 playoff games.
Wow.
Whether that was via hit, via walk, whatever the case may be. But he got on base safely in all 17 games, and he set an MLB record with 9 doubles in a single postseason.
He's the same age as us.
He's 21 years old.
He's actually a little younger.
He's a little
than us.
younger. I was born in April 2002. He was born in August.
That just made us
2002.
feel like we really should have gotten on top of this whole baseball thing sooner.
It's
And,
just it's so weird watching him
it's crazy.
play in the World Series. I'm like, this dude is the exact same age.
I mean,
as I am.
the pressure that you face going into Houston, a hostile environment, to take at bats in that batter's box, to, you know, full count, knowing which pitch to swing on, which pitch to not swing on. He
Handled it
held
like
his
a
own.
champ.
Yeah. He played it like he was a lot older than he actually was, and can't say enough good things about him. Or the rest of this team, every guy on this team. And the cool thing is most of this team, if not all of them, will be back
they all
next season.
better be back.
And I just think, Nick, it's time for a few minutes, not very long, to address some of the Astros fans that don't seem to realize that we did win the World Series.
Absolutely.
So
First off,
this is not every Astros fan. I just want to say that, okay? But there are some people who have been talking a lot about, like, they still have something over us right now.
let's just address this first, because there has been a phrase that has been thrown around social media and just in general.
Yep.
And it is this phrase called bought, not built.
Yep.
And so right after we won the ALCS, a lot of Astros fans threw at us, bought, not built.
Saying
So-
our team was not raised in-house, that
Allow
we paid
me
players to come.
So right here, I've got pulled up the top 16 MLB payrolls. I'm not going to get into every single one, but the two that you need to hear about are the Rangers and the Astros. The Rangers have the 9th highest payroll in 2023, right? So
Right.
we're in the top 10.
Yep.
But guess who's right beneath us at number 10? The Houston Astros. And do you know what separates the two? About $3 million. A little less than $3 million, actually.
So we basically pay the same amount of money for our players. Also, okay, I've never heard it be said that you're not allowed to pay your players to come play for you. That's how professional sports works. That's how every
And also, the two
professional
main
sport
guys
works.
that we that we paid for were Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. But also, they were free agents at the time.
Look, I'm just going to say this. Everything we paid for paid off. And also, my biggest thing is you can hold division records. You can hold total World Series wins. You can hold total ALCS wins, World Series visits. Obviously, they have more of all those than us. But they've never faced us in the postseason before.
And the first time, they did, they lost.
We are 1-0 against the Astros in the postseason. And that means that we are, in fact, better than them head-to-head in the postseason. So, also, let me say this, all right? Nobody counts, other than Houston, nobody counts your first World Series win as a true World Series win. because when anyone talks about it, if you're not a Houston Astros fan, it was because they cheated. So,
Absolutely. That does not count.
y'all want to deny it all you can. In the little community of Houston Astros fans, it is a World Series win. To the rest of the baseball world, it doesn't count. So have fun with your 1.5 World Series wins. But I will say this. We're on the rise, okay? So I think it's
Watch
time.
out.
They don't want to respect us right now, which I feel like after we beat them in the postseason, you kind of have
And went
to
on
give
to
us,
win the World Series.
Yeah, you kind of have to give us a little respect. That's fine. You're not going to. That's all right.
I'm
But
glad y'all destroyed us in the regular season, but at the end of the day, in prime time under the lights, when it mattered the most, who came out on top?
we did.
That would be your Texas
And also,
Rangers.
I don't want to hear any of this, Rangers win the World Series and the first thing they think about is the Astros. It's because we've been hearing about y'all every time y'all win the World Series. Every time y'all made it to the World Series, I get texts from Astros fans like they beat us or something. The Rangers have not been good until now. So now that we're good, you're actually going to have to contend against us and actually beat us as a good team.
I'm sorry that it's not a walk in the park for the AL West anymore. I hate
It's
to
easy
break
to
it
talk
you,
trash when you're 100 games better than the other
but
team.
we're good, and we're going to be good for a while. And the Mariners also have been on the rise. They have gotten better and better every year. I anticipate some huge offseason moves for the Mariners.
Yep. So the division is a lot better now. Houston's going to have to be ready, and I don't think that they will. But as Rangers fans, this season was fantastic and just amazing. And honestly, losing the division in the very last day of the regular season, Rangers fans did not feel very hopeful for the postseason. And our team just turned it on, turned it around. Everybody started playing lights out.
Lit a fire under
Tip
the boys.
of the Rangers cap to all of our players, staff,
I mean,
management,
had to
everything.
run through the gauntlet in the postseason to get to the World Series.
Nothing we got was easy.
We went through the two best teams record-wise in the AL, went on to beat the World Series, the defending World Series champs in the American League Championship Series, and then we went on to obviously win it all.
This was a storybook season. Hopefully not the last one. Hopefully the first of many. But
Most everyone is coming back, so that's good.
Yep.
There are a couple guys that are going to be free agents, but
hopefully we'll re-sign them.
I anticipate we'll re-sign the right ones. Obviously, whatever Chris Young does is right with me. He definitely knows what
fully
he's doing.
trust in Chris. He's the one who got us here, and so I hope we'll be around for a while. And Houston, be on the lookout. You got somebody to actually play against now. It's a little bit different when you're playing somebody who's good.
Yeah, how about that? How about that?
But all in all, just an amazing storybook year, and we can't wait to enjoy this
Just
offseason.
ups and downs, but in the end, who came out on top?
The Rangers,
Absolutely.
and we will return.
Absolutely. This is the first of many.
Nick and I are here for it all. We will keep bringing you Rangers news as it shows up. But right now, our guys are taking some much needed, much deserved time off as they enjoy their off seasons.
So, here's like in their shows and interview. I brought you a quote from the man who started off this show, Corey Seager.
Ooh.
Okay. Everyone wondered what would happen if the Rangers didn't win the World Series. I guess we'll never know.
I guess we never will.
Thanks for listening to our Rangers episode.
Yep. And
It's been fun.
It's been a lot of fun. We've been holding this stuff in for a long time, and hope you enjoyed it. And we will see you next week with another episode of Under Review.